Hello. Welcome to the Catholic Answers Live Super Show. We do these on Tuesdays and Thursdays now. This is our new thing we're doing, and we're committed to it. We're going to keep doing it even when people get sick. And that's what happened today. Edgar, the assistant to the host, he says assistant host, but the assistant to the host, Edgar Lueno, he says Lujano. I think it's pronounced Lueno. He's sick. He got sick. So I got no partner in crime today. So you could be my partner in crime. Just write things in YouTube. I'm sorry I won't be able to follow on the others. It's just too much for me. I'm an old person. I remember a strange planet Earth before there were cell phones. So if you're going to communicate with me, it's going to have to be on the YouTubes. But I'll try to monitor it and keep track of it as we go. We've got a couple of great guests coming up later on Catholic Answers Live. Tim Staples, we found out that one of our favorite things to do with Tim Staples is do the shows where we go, why aren't you Christian? And non-Christians call. So we're going to do Why Aren't You Christian with Tim. And then we're going to talk about vocations with Father, a man whose last name is Gandolfo. So a wizardly priest, Father Gandolfo, will be here first hour, but a little bit of Super Show before we do that. By the way, when we do the Super Show, if you stay here with us wherever you're watching now, if you go over to radio, you'll get the radio show. If satellite radio, you'll get the satellite radio show. But if you stay here, we'll try to continue to include you in the conversation during the breaks. All right. Hi, Jesus. Well, it says Jesus talks. Hi, Jesus talks. Boy, yes. Ooh, oh, poor Edgar. You are right, Michael. He's sick. I still have a landline. So okay, I get it. But you probably also have a cell phone. I don't have a landline. Do you have a landline in your house, Darren? Or do you just have a cell phone?
No, I haven't had one forever.
Really? I don't even remember when we got rid of it. I don't even think we got rid of it. I think it just faded away. It just melted and disappeared. Raccoons ate it or something. At some point, we just stopped having a landline. A couple things I wanted to share with you today before we get going on the other live show, the not super show, the regular show. Newsweek has some stuff on a Pew Research thing, and you all know if you've been around for very long, I love polls. I love the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, CARA. They do really good polling. They have really good statistics. It's very interesting. As a matter of fact, just at lunch today, we had some guests here at Catholic Answers, and one of them is not Catholic. And a guy who has been very supportive of us, by the way, financially, who's not Catholic, and he said, hey, what percentage of American Catholics go to Mass? And we guessed in the room 20% of American Catholics go to Mass. We didn't know for sure, but we guessed 20%. Pew Research from a few years ago says 29%. Last year, CARA, Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, says 24%. And everyone agreed in the room. As much as we like Pew Research, you go with the CARA number. So 24% of Catholics go to Mass weekly in the United States. That's good in a way for those 24%, but it's not so good because that's like virtually the reverse of how those numbers were, say, in 1960. You know, if you went back to 1960, it would be more like 24% of Catholics missed Mass or didn't regularly go to weekly Mass, and more like 75, 76, maybe even 80 went to Mass weekly. So we've managed to switch that around, and probably a lot of reasons for that. But anyways, that's why I like it when we get into the statistics like that. And we had a guy there with his cell phone. He just looked it up and he said, hey, according to CARA, Center for Applied Research on the Apostolate. I don't know why saying CARA, I always feel like people don't know what I'm talking about. So I keep repeating it. But Center for Applied, 24%. All right, so now Pew has some research that what I like about Pew is they do this research, but they also have they got somebody who's good at marketing, because you always get the Newsweek article, the Time Magazine article, the CNN article that quotes Pew Research. As a matter of fact, that big thing, remember a few years ago, the thing that occasioned what we have called the Eucharistic revival here in the United States, it was Pew Research. It was Pew Research did some polling, and people were shocked at the data that Catholics apparently didn't know what the Catholic Church taught about the Eucharist. They didn't know what the real presence was and all that. So that was interesting. And it can also be quite effective, to kind of see in numbers what's happening. Well, here's what Newsweek wanted to say. Here, I'll give you the headline. I'll just read you the actual headline from Newsweek. America's view on religion are. Oh, that's a dumb headline. That's not what I thought it was. I think I forgot what the headline was. That's dumb. The whole point of the article, though, is there was a time when it kept going down, 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 down. People's what people think, whether or not people think religion has much influence on American life, and then it upticked this year. In February of this year, it upticked. Well, the usual explanation for that, and I think it's a good explanation, is people tend to think religion is more influential in American life when there's a Republican president. That's just one of those things about American politics. So people start to think, like with Reagan, moral majority, and with Donald Trump, maybe evangelicals and Catholics, they have influence with this guy. And so people start to think, well, that means they have influence in society. I wasn't that interested in that because politics come and go. And so people change their view of how influential religion is. But I was interested in the number about how many people think that that's a good thing. How many people do you think, I'll ask you this, and I bet you'll get it wrong. How many people do you think in America think religion is a good influence on American life? And how many do you think that religion is a bad influence? Most Americans, by the way, still, like, that uptick that I talked about is an uptick in a negative situation. So it went from 80% of people think that religious influence is declining to 68% people. So that it's not like we all of a sudden everything turned positive. It's just it was turned marginally less negative. And this is great. Put your whole effort into something that produces a marginally less negative result than otherwise would have happened. But that's kind of where we are. It's marginally less negative. But how about this? The portion of Americans who hold a positive view of religion's influence. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what percentage of Americans do you think, you know what? It's a good thing, the religious influence on American life. What do you think that is? Well, in 2024, it was 57%. So that means 43% of Americans think religion has a negative effect on American life. And then, again, in 2025, that just ticked up 2 points. So 59%, this year, 59% think that religion has a positive effect. I mean, you got schools, you got hospitals, you got outreach to the poor, you got Catholic charities and Jewish family services and done all of that. 41% of America still thinks, but on balance, it's a negative. What? Wow. That's really something. So that's quite a few people. And the marginal improvement, it's probably not even marginal. I mean, 2%, that's probably within the margin of error. So we don't even know if there's any difference. That basically, fewer than 60% or less than 60%, less than 60%. Yeah, less than 60% of people. I actually don't know whether fewer. I don't know if I'm using an aggregate or I'm going to say less than 60% of respondents think, well, no. Yeah, less than 60% of respondents think religion is a good thing. Okay, numbers not my number one thing. Less than 60% of people in America think religion has a positive influence. And that freaks me out a little bit. Some of that has got to be propaganda. I got to be honest with you. There's certain things that kind of stick out where you go, you know what? People are going like, well, they overturned Roe versus Wade. And so they really, I can see somebody who's like super pro-abortion or pro-choice or however you want to put that. They're like, yeah, those religious people did that. So that's negative. And they don't see all the other stuff as compensating for that. Or I'm going to guess, now here I'm guessing, I don't have any statistics, but I'm super good at guessing, especially when I don't have statistics, because nobody can prove me wrong. So I'm super good at guessing when there's no statistics available. I'm guessing things like the transgender movement and gay marriage, that kind of thing. People those are their number one issue. Everybody's got their number one issue. They might go, Yeah, I think all in all, religion has a negative effect. And there's probably some others in that category. All right, in all these statistics, though, there's one statistic that stuck out at me. And I think I didn't understand this statistic the first time I read it. So help me out with this. In 2025, 58% of U.S. adults said they feel at least some conflict between their religious beliefs and mainstream American culture. I read that when I first read that, I thought what I thought it was saying, and I got this wrong, was 58% of religious people think there's some conflict between their religious beliefs and mainstream American culture. And that blew my mind, because if you have religious beliefs and you look at American culture and go, I got no problem with any of that. That all looks great to me. I think it's going super duper. I think you're insane. Like, what kind of religion are you practicing? It seems to me that there's virtually no religion on earth that would look at American culture right now and go, love it, keep it up, America. You're doing good. So, like, if you have no problems, like you what? Huh? But that's not exactly what the statistic said. It says 58% of U.S. adults said they feel some conflict, at least some conflict, between their religious beliefs and mainstream American culture. Well, if you look at the statistics on religion, though, and this is what happened up until about the 1970s, 90%, for a long, as far back as polling goes, 90% of Americans say they're Christians. 90%, maybe 92, maybe, but in the 90s, anytime you polled, 90% said I'm Christian. After the 1970s, it starts to drop. Okay, and at a certain point in the late 90s, but then really sharp in the early 2000s, it's like we go off a cliff. And so Christians are like, what? You're putting your hands up like on the roller coaster. Where is this going to stop? And it got down to about 64, 63, 62% right in there. And it seems more of a plateau now. It may still be in decline. We don't know. We actually don't know. There's not the polling is not good enough yet to know. Has it completely stabilized? Is it just in a slower time of decline? I'm just throwing that out so that you know that today, in 2025, here in the United States, about 61, 62% of people will say, I'm a Christian. Okay, which is way down from before, but it's not way down from 5 years ago. It's way down from the 1970s, but it's not crashing and burning like it was between 2000 and 2010, say, where it was. Whoop. So maybe we've stabilized that a bit. But again, if 61% of Americans, let's say 61% are Christians, and 58% say they have some conflict between themselves, their religious beliefs, and America, that means there's 3% of Christians. 3% of people who are Christian in this country are like, hey, I'm Christian, and man, America's doing great. This is exactly, kids being exposed to porn at 8 years old. I'm on with that, sure. And men competing in women's sports, abortion, yes, but in some states, no. I love this. I have no conflict with anything. Like, how do you have no conflict with how can you have any religion at all and not have some level of conflict with America, with the condition, and not with the state, the fact, but with the condition of America. As a matter of fact, I think it's pretty important that we have a kind of dissonance. If you're a committed Christian, particularly, now I'll just go to that smaller group that would be committed Christians, and I don't know how big that group is. But if you're a committed Christian, I don't think that you have an obligation you're not supposed to be in conflict with culture all the time. Christianity is not a countercultural religion in that sense. Christianity is not countercultural in the sense that it doesn't like culture, or it always has to be saying, no, culture, no, none of this is good enough. No, that's not our position, but it has to be countercultural in the sense that it is not determined, but it doesn't get its content or its temperature, its attitude, its opinions from the culture around it. So there should always be some level of resistance, because no human culture, none, is without the need for reform. And I think this is basic Catholic teaching, and we need to be really aware of this. Sometimes, especially with the people who really love the word multicultural, which is not a bad word. There's nothing wrong with the word multicultural. But yeah, multicultural, as long as you know that we love all cultures. I want to know about all cultures, but we also know all cultures are made up of fallen human beings, and they all need to be reformed. Do I want to live aloha when I'm in Hawaii? Oh, you bet I do. But do I think that Hawaiian culture doesn't need reform? What, am I a nut? Am I a moron? Of course. You can look all around you. You see it needs to be reformed. So you got to have some, if you're a Christian person, I think it's in the DNA of Christianity to go, to constantly be coming up higher and saying, look, this needs to reform. This needs to be better. This needs to be, to have a kind of dissatisfaction, or a kind of an ability to resist the culture enough to go, okay, yep, that's good. I'll keep that. This is not good over here. So we have to have some level of conflict with the culture. So I would be I would think you're crazy if you're a Christian and you said to me, I have no level of discomfort with my society. Now, in particular, in America today, I mean, there's some really violent stuff going on, really. And Christianity, I don't know if you know this, but it's traditionally not really in favor of violence. It's a religion of peace and love. You may not have had that communicated to you, but it is. So there's a lot of really violent stuff going on in America. We should, I mean, not, the number one violence against little babies, the unborn, but all kinds of other violence as well. We're thinking about getting going. We'll see if we can get a good euthanasia industry up and going, get that on its legs, some assisted suicide. If you don't have conflict with all that, I don't know how much you got to go, is my Christianity forming me or is my culture forming me? You got to have a different temperature than everybody around you, or than everybody that's, a different temperature than what's on CNN, a different temperature than what's on the Bravo network. If you're the same temperature as everything around you, Christianity is not working. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to give you a fever sometimes and a cold sometimes. You're supposed to be allergic to some of what's going on around you. All right, I want to get to another story before we go, not before we go into the show with Father Gandolfo. Do you all watch Sky News? Are you all familiar with Sky News? Sky News is one of the 50 top news sites in the English language news sites in the world, and English is the number one language in the world. I don't know if you know that, but so I'm not talking about some fly-by-night thing. So Sky News has this, and I'm picking on Sky News because they're one of the big boys. But a lot of people reported on this, and you could see it. It was in National Review. It was in all kinds of places. But I particularly thought that the Sky News commentor. Do you say commenter or commentator? I've never liked the word commentator. Why do we, commenter is a perfectly good word. Why do we say commentator? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm talking about? He's a commentator on the news. What's a commentator? Just say commenter. Why do we say commentator? Darren's just looking at me. He's giving me nothing. Absolutely nothing. I got a priest in there. Nothing. Nothing from him.
I'm disorientated.
You're disorientated? Oh, I apologize. That was a good comeback, Darren. He's disorientated. So this commenter, I can't say commentator. You all say commentator. I don't care. Say whatever you want. But in my mind, I'm going to think, you threw a syllable in there that we do not need. Nobody needs that syllable. Let's take care of that. But I'm going to say commenter, whatever you say. And so this commenter for Sky News, I thought, and I'm not going to name him because I'm not one of those naming and shaming kind of people, but you can go look it up in 1 second. You can find out who I'm talking about. But on Sky News, Sky News comes from Britain, goes all around the world. It's one of those, it's really a worldwide news organization commenting on something that happened in the Vatican. And I think it's wrong, this commentary. So I don't know. I'm going to read it to him. I'm going to read what the host said. Just a few little quotes from what the host said about this thing that happened in the Vatican. And then I'm going to ask you, did you hear this news story? And was it reported to you in an honest way, or was it reported to you as if another Vatican outrage? Okay. This Sky News host criticized the Vatican Library for granting Muslims a prayer room. The Vatican, now I'm quoting, the Vatican ever eager to avoid offending anyone except Catholics, immediately obliged, this commentator said. So by creating, within the very walls of Catholic intellectual power, a space for Muslim prayer, the Vatican is effectively allowing a rival faith to set up shop on its property. Catholics believe salvation comes only through Christ. That's true. That part's true. So why would they facilitate a form of worship that leads, by their own doctrine, to spiritual ruin? So it turns out you need to look into this a little more, because usually the outrage exceeds the facts. That's usually how the outrage thing works. And Daniel Payne over at the Catholic News Agency actually did a really good fact check. He did a fact check. First of all, Daniel, I love your reporting. Please stop using the word fact check. Nobody believes anything that starts with the words fact check anymore. We all got fact checked to death during COVID. I'm just going to say it. Nobody wants to say it. Everybody got fact checked, and it turned out the fact checkers were wrong. I think scientifically it's been proven 73.8% of the time. Okay, and the other part of the other times, they had spelling errors. So fact checks are always wrong in one way or another. Nobody cares. Am I right? Put the word fact check on there, and immediately people suspect you of being a bully. Just knock it off with the fact checking. Okay, so and far be it for me to tell Catholic News Agency how to do things, but please, people, stop using the words fact check. Nobody trusts you if you use the word fact check. So did the Vatican Library open a prayer room to Muslims? And they did. And then this guy, Daniel Payne, did a very fine report, as Catholic News Agency always does. All right, I disagree with their use of the word fact check, but they did a really good job on this. It turns out this whole story comes from a quote from the guy who, his name is Father Cardinali, Don Giacomo Cardinali. That's this guy's name. So that Don Giacomo Cardinali, if this is a movie, he killed somebody with a name like that. Like, you cannot have a name in real life. I'm not saying that Father killed anybody. I'm just saying that if this is a movie, he's the killer. Okay, with the name Don Giovanni Cardinali, but he's a priest and his last name is Cardinali. I think that's funny. I don't know why. I think that's funny. So the guy, he's the guy he's the vice prefect for the Vatican Apostolic Library. So he runs the library, and he gave an interview about the library. And this is, I'm quoting Daniel Payne now, the reporter, who did not write that headline with the words fact check in it, which we'll never speak of it again, Daniel. But he writes this in a wide-ranging interview. So he traced it back to where did this story come from that got into Sky News and made the Sky News guy lose his mind, which he's paid to do. The people on TV are paid to lose their mind. So I'm not criticizing him. I hope he makes a good living at it. But in the wide range, so where did all this anger come from? This is what Daniel Payne did. He did actual reporting. In the interview, Cardinali described the library as a universal institution, as the most secular of the entire Holy See. Our interlocutors are research centers, public universities, the Louvre, the Metropolitan, the NASA. The priest told the newspaper they don't really know what a priest is, much less how to distinguish him from a bishop or a cardinal. So he's doing a profile on the Vatican libraries, which really are just a vast research institutions that anybody can use. Even people that hate the Catholic Church, and I know this because some people who wrote really nasty books about Pope Pius XII, they never told them you have to stop coming to the Vatican libraries. Even these people lied about what they had found in the Vatican. The Vatican never told them you have to stop coming. These libraries are open to scholars, and they should be. This is how the church should work. It's supposed to work this way. So then the interviewer asked Father Cardinali, who has never killed anyone, if scholars of other religions ever come to the library. And the priest responded, of course. And then some Muslim scholars asked us for a room with a carpet to pray, so we gave it to them. We have incredible ancient Qurans, the priest said. We're a universal library. There are Arabic, Jewish, Ethiopian collections, unique Chinese pieces. Years ago, we discovered that we have the oldest medieval Japanese archive that exists outside the rising sun. Okay, so what he's doing is he's bragging on the Vatican Library, which really is as fantastic as it was. So here's what Daniel Payne uncovers. The guy didn't say the church created a room of Muslim prayer in the Vatican. In the Vatican Library, an institution that is open to anyone on anyone on earth. Muslim scholars were studying probably ancient Qurans or something that was of interest to them as Muslim scholars. And they were like, you got anywhere where we can pray? And they're like, yeah, we got a room with, or they asked for a carpeted room. You got a carpeted room where we could pray? And they said, yeah, there's a room. We'll give you that room to pray in. They didn't designate the room. Like, it's not like nobody else can go in there. It's not like it's been taken over by Islam or something. There is a word for this behavior from the Vatican Library. And it's actually a very important word. And it's not a negative thing. It's called, now I realize this might be complicated for some people, manners. If somebody asks you, I need to pray, do you have a spot where I can pray? You go, yeah, I do, or no, I don't. You don't, like, what if you had a Muslim guest at your house, right? And the Muslim guest was like, hey, it's time for me to pray. Do you have a towel I could use or a rug or something? What are you going to do? Be like, I'm a Christian. We don't assist Muslims in prayer. Of course not. You're going to just give the person what they need. So all right, I realize that you're supposed to. I got to go to YouTube and see if anybody's even if I've been murdered yet. Look, if you have basic manners for Muslims, that's okay. As a matter of fact, I really believe Jesus would encourage that. I'm looking at the comments now to see. Oh wait, I don't know. I don't even know what this is in reference to. But Mr. B has the best comment of the day. Sai is hitting the nail on the head. Yes, Mr. B, you are correct about that. Okay, but wait a second. So now somebody did say, but that's on church property. Okay, yes, but now, okay, this is a very good point. And look, if I'm the something happened and I ended up the pastor of a Catholic church, and the Muslims said, can we pray in the sanctuary of the church? No, that's no. That we have other places, you know, like, I don't know how this ended up that I've got Muslims that want to pray at my church. I don't know the scenario. I'm just saying, yes, there are limits, but the people, they didn't say, can we possibly just have St. Peter's Basilica for the day? We've got to do Muslim prayer. You would say that is actually reserved as a Christian place of worship. But we've got another place, you know, over here for you. So yeah, I see your point, but it's not like they gave him a church. I don't know if I can see this, and I am a few minutes behind, but a commenter makes remarks about a subject. A commentator relays information concerning a subject in a narrative fashion. Derek, I strongly suspect you made that up, but perhaps you did not. Oh, maybe Derek is a what's a person who knows a lot about words called? What's that called? A numismatist. That's somebody who knows coins. What's an entomologist? That's somebody who knows bugs, right? No. Oh, etymologist. Etymologist. Yes. Okay. Poor Bender's all like, dude, you look stupid right now. I believe prayer should almost always be encouraged. We don't pray enough as a society, regardless of religion. Well, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I have been welcomed. Oh, that's our friend All About Hugs, who is Muslim. I forgot about that's right. Unless I'm forgetting our conversation from before All About Hugs, I think you are Muslim. I have been welcomed, actually even invited into churches by priests as a Muslim and have prayed there. Well, I certainly, there's nothing against praying in a Catholic church. Anybody can go into a Catholic church and pray. All right. I can't read. I don't have my glasses on. Philatelist? Is that what a person who knows a lot about words? All right. We're about to bring our guest in. So you want to come in, Father? And I'll stop talking about Islam. And okay, I know, right? Oh, I sold out. If somebody comes to my house and they're my guest in my house and they ask me for a place to pray, I'm going to go over there, sit over there. Do you need a glass of water? And I think you're going to do that too. And the Vatican is not selling out the Catholic Church by saying, there's a room with carpet over there. Why don't you go pray over there? That's what we call manners. At least that's what I think. A numismatist is a coin freak like me. Oh, Big Stack's a numismatist. I didn't know that. This is Father Gandolfo. You want to put your headphones on there, Father? We can't hear anybody yet either. It's only me. How much of that commentating? I was commentating.
You were commentating.
How much
yes,
were you
yes.
subjected to?
I was subjected to quite a bit of it.
Are you
yes.
okay?
I think I'm okay. I need to talk with my spiritual director about it. and
About
really-
Muslims or
no, but just you in general, Si. Just everything that you were saying. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man!
No.
I upset your spiritual life. Father's going to be our first hour guest in about 30 seconds, and we're going to talk about vocations. And can we talk at all about women's vocations as well as men's?
Of course we can.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
As I believe in this, I have this really strong feeling that a lot of young men and women. Oh, I can log in for them.
Well, it's just not on. I feel like I'm.
Oh, this is the craziest thing. It is this tiny little button on the side.
Okay.
Which is made. I can't even get it. Bender, can you turn this on? Oh, he's busy. We'll get you on in a second. Here comes the music, so we got to. Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Great show for you today. Second hour, Tim Staples is going to be here, and we're going to do something that we have found is just delightful.